Why would I consider potentially buying a list, but probably not ever buy a lead? Let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Nicole Willette. I own Breaking Even Communications, which is an online marketing company that I started back in January of 2008. So it's been 17 years this month. I can't believe I've been doing this as long as I have, but somehow here we are. Let's start off with what is a lead and what is a list. If you're like me, chances are you get emails like what I'm putting on the screen all of the time of people offering you qualified leads or offering this kind of list. Like it's a list of WordPress developers in the United States, or it's a list of medical staff in the state of Maine or something like that. And it's usually something a little bit specific, whereas the leads tend to be qualified. Let's talk about how leads are generated versus how lists are created. So I will use myself as an example of becoming a lead one time and kind of what I did to get there and then what happened after. Back in 2008, when I was starting my business and thinking about quitting my job, I realized that I could not afford the COBRA payments of my former workplace. I would have to buy my own health insurance if I was going to have any at all. I did what most people did back in 2008. I opened up Google and I typed in something like health insurance self-employed Maine or something like that. I wish screenshots existed of this time, but I remember to take them and file them away somewhere, but you'll just have to take my word for it. I ended up on some generic looking website that had a form on it. I don't know whether I ended up on this page organically, but the form promised me a free health insurance quote if I would fill it out with some basic information. Now, I know not to put anything sensitive into these forms, but I think it just asked me for my name, my email address, my phone number. I think it asked me what county I was in, maybe in the state of Maine. And then it asked me like when I needed the health insurance. And when I filled out that form, because of the nature of what it said on the screen of generating a free quote, I expected there to be a number on the screen after I clicked submit. But then nothing happened. And at that point, I knew. I knew that I would start getting emails and phone calls. And sure enough, within 24 hours, I got conservatively like 12 phone calls and like 15 emails of insurance brokers offering to talk to me about insurance. At that point, I had become a lead. So, what this website did, and I found out this from the person who I eventually bought health insurance from, is I filled out that form and my information was immediately sold to insurance agents. He paid $25 for my information, as did, I'm sure, everybody who got a lead from that website. Based on the number of calls I got, these websites make a lot of money off of generating the leads, the qualified leads, and then selling them. Now, obviously, the problem is that as a customer, I was expecting a quote. I didn't get one. It made me feel weird. Now, a list is a lot different. Usually, a list is a list of typically businesses. I'm not saying they're all businesses, but I'll give you an example of a list. So, I had a client who had a product that was specifically for truck drivers. Now, obviously, through marketing, there's various ways that we can target somebody who has a specific job title or is in a specific industry. But as I was, working on my proposal for him, I ran into a list of all the truck stops in the United States. There's thousands of truck stops in the United States. And on this list, it promised that it was updated recently, like within the last year, I think. And then it had obviously the name of the truck stop, the full address, which obviously includes the city and state. I believe it listed a phone number, and then it had like a few amenities on it, like whether there was on-site showers, whether there was an on-site restaurant, one or two other things that I can't remember. And so that list that had over 11,000 truck stops on it, I could have bought for under $100. Those are just two examples, but you see how they're inherently different from one another. In the case of a lead, first of all, it's recent, right? I'm not going to pay for the contact information of someone who filled out a form that they wanted a new website 6 months ago. They probably already got their website done. They probably decided maybe they didn't have the money for it. They probably decided to maybe keep their existing website once they got some quotes. Getting a lead 6 months later is not really worth anything. Ideally, with a lead, it's somebody who has recently expressed some kind of interest that you can quantify, in my case, needing to buy health insurance, and you're given their contact information. Whereas with the list, it's kind of like some smartly compiled information. the truck stops haven't expressed an interest in carrying innovative products for their truck drivers. That's not why they're on the list. They're on the list because they're a truck stop. Why lists are pretty inexpensive is not only are they more general, but also you could theoretically do this research yourself, but by buying the list, you're saving yourself probably hundreds of hours of researching, over 10,000 truck stops in the United States. Basically, someone put that together, and if enough people buy it, so if enough people spend $89 on that list, that pays for the person's time who's compiled it. That's the difference between a lead and a list. There are two things that I don't like about using generic lead generation websites, like the one that I filled out for my health insurance. Number one, I don't know what that person was told or what that person saw before putting in their information. So in my case, I was promised a free insurance quote. I filled it out, didn't get taken to a page where there was one, and instead got a bunch of phone calls of people being like, hey, I heard you need to buy insurance. And I was like, well, wait a minute, where's my free quote? So I was given an expectation, it wasn't met. And so it gave me a bad taste in my mouth when I started interacting with these insurance providers. They didn't know that I had seen a web page that promised me a free quote. They didn't know to use that language when they reached out to me. They just paid for my name and contact information. So to me, if I'm paying $25 for someone's contact information, I want to know what they saw. I want to know what they were promised. I want to know the language that was used so that when I follow up as a salesperson, I'm more likely to not only be successful, but to have a good first interaction with them. But the second reason why I don't want to use generic lead generation websites and buy leads off of them is that they're selling that lead to everyone that is willing to pay for it. They're not saying, oh, Nicole, we're going to give you this person's contact information exclusively. They're going to sell that to as many people as they can. So even if they sold my name to only 10 people for $25 a piece, that website made $250 off of me. And I'm sure it did not take them $250 in ad spend to get me to that page. If I'm going to pay $25 for a lead, not only do I want to control the messaging and get it targeted to the exact person that I want, I also want to be the only person to have that information. So I might as well just get them myself with ads that I can run myself, that I can run to my own website, that I can run on social media websites. Pretty much every social media site, by the way, whether it's Google or Meta or Pinterest, LinkedIn, they all have a classification of ads called lead generation ads, where people stay on the platform and they fill out a form, and you can specify what information you want them to fill out. So there's no reason you can't get these leads yourself. And because you are running the ads yourself, you can set not only campaign budget, you can set a budget per lead that you're willing to pay. So if I say, you know what, the most I'm willing to pay is $25 for a lead, I can set a campaign budget of like $500, but I can say per lead, the max I want to pay is $25. And the software will respect that. I'm not saying it's going to get me leads for that, but I can at least tell the software not to overspend on the leads that I want to get. So you get why I am unwilling as a fake insurance person in this scenario to buy a lead off of freehealthinsurancequote.com or whatever. But instead, I would want to spend my efforts running my own ads, getting my own leads, because not only could I target a geographic area, a certain income level, a certain job title. I mean, I can target this person specifically, but also since I'm sending them to my website and they're filling out my form, I'm not selling that to anyone else. That is my lead to do with what I want. So you might ask yourself, okay, I get why you wouldn't want to buy those weird leads, but why would you buy a weird list? I have a few caveats that I would look for if I was going to think about buying a list. Number one, I'd want to see the company behind the list. If I look at your business ratings and stuff like that, can I trust what you're saying about this list being updated? So I would want to know that it was updated recently by a company that I could somewhat trust. I would also want to make sure that there was an email address as part of the contact information for the business on the list. Because here's the thing, what a lot of them do is they say, well, we include the website. Most websites, including my own, have a contact form. We actually don't see the email address. So now what, you're spam filling out contact forms, or you're having a bot go to all these contact forms and spam them? I don't want to do that to people. And I mean, the other option is they'd say, well, there's a website URL, but there's also a phone number. And I don't know about you, but I also don't want to call 10,000 truck stops either. But the thing with having an email address is, first of all, we don't add people to lists, okay? We don't add random emails to lists. But what we could do that to me feels a little less icky is if I have a list of email addresses, I can run an ad to a list of email addresses. So to me, with the truck stop person, what I would have liked to do is if I had the list of email addresses, I don't think the truck stop list had email addresses. I think that's why we didn't go with it. But if it had the email addresses, run an ad to them about this truck stop product, and I would see who engaged with the ad, and then I would continue running ads only to the people who engaged with it. But that still feels like a little bit icky. But, I'm not going in their inbox. It is an ad that they can scroll past. That makes me feel a little better about it, but I understand that it's gray area. But I guess that's why I would consider a list. Also, maybe I want to do some kind of like meetup, right? Like maybe I just want to get a bunch of web developers in my area together and invite them over to my office and have like a little networking meetup thing, talk about projects and things like that. So it would be nice for me to have a list to do that. That would not feel icky because I'd be like, hey, come on over. We'll get pizza. We'll talk about, load times or something. Anyway, I guess what I'm saying is I'm not as opposed to lists because not only are they less expensive, but to me, there's less intrusive ways of using those lists and connecting my product or service with the people who might need it on that list. As you can see, marketing is becoming more and more of a nuanced practice. We have an increasing amount of data about potential customers. We have increasing ways of targeting them. And what I have to ask myself as a marketer and as an ethical person is where my line is for my businesses and for my clients. By the way, the line is in the same place for both of those groups of people. I'm not willing to do more unscrupulous things for myself than I am for other people, but I do have those lines. And I think that if you have a business and you work with a marketing company, you should ask them what their lines are, because I think most of us, especially in the last couple of years, have come up with things that we are and aren't willing to do. I had someone once accuse me because they wanted to do something and I thought it was icky. So I said, I don't think we should do that. And they said, oh, do you not know how to do that? Just because I know how to do something doesn't mean that I'm willing to do it, right? If you have a business or a nonprofit and you work with a marketing company, I urge you to have these conversations of ethics with them. Knowledge is power, but also being unwilling to use your knowledge is power too. And if you're a marketer watching this, I encourage you to think a lot about where your lines are, because the progress of this technology is going to get faster and faster. And knowing where you stand, I think, is going to help you stand in all these changes that are coming our way. So, not to get philosophical at the end of the video, but that's the difference between leads and lists, and why I would maybe buy one, but definitely not buy the other off of a third-party website. So thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful. If so, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing it with someone you think would get a kick out of it. If you have a topic that you'd like me to cover, a question you have, something like that, you can leave it as a comment on this video. Or if you're more shy, you can use the contact form of the website, breakingeveninc.com/contact, and that goes straight to me. If you want to keep in touch, a good way to do that is through the email newsletter, breakingeveninc.com/newsletter. And if you like this content, there is a kind of general business playlist, there's a websites playlist, and there's a social media playlist on this channel if you want kind of more informative content. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.